Lemon Amiga presents a Playguide video review. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hey there, welcome to another Lemon Amiga Playguide and review. This time it's Tiny Bobble, created by Manfred Linzner and published on the public domain scene in 2020. And this was played in the Lemon Amiga Games competition in August 2021, and it's an arcade game, so before you start to play it, it's important to understand how to play it. And how to play it is slightly different from the arcade machine, but if you manage to pop an even number of bubbles and get an even score, I think, then that means that you'll get the mega bonus or the super bonus, and that doubles with every level. You can still got 8,000 for that super bonus. So it's impossible to get that on every single level, but hopefully you can find some things on every level which helps us, or at least some things from time to time. So this is my warm-up plays, and what we're going to be seeing in this play guide is my best playthrough of this game whilst we were playing this in the Lemon Amiga Games competition. And these are the tries, and this is how far I managed to get. So on that particular run I managed to get all the way up to round 71, and certainly if you can get after round 50 then you can get some big scores in the game, and the scores really do rack up as you start to play it, and we will definitely be seeing that in this play guide, where I will hopefully be explaining the game level by level. So let's return back to that title screen with the nice colour cycling logo in the middle, where we can press the 1-player fire button or the 2-player fire button to start the game. Beginning of the game, it begins with a very simple screen. All we need to do is to destroy those enemies, and it begins with 3 enemies on the screen, and what we have is the ability to blow bubbles, and it means that we can blow bubbles into the enemies. They all get trapped, and that means that we can use the spines on our heads and on our backs to blow up those bubbles. Or if we hit those head on, sometimes we can push the bubbles around the screen. So it's important to know how to blow up the bubbles, and certainly if you've got your back towards the enemy, that guarantees that that will work. Otherwise that might just be pushed over to the edge of the screen, and obviously if you trap a bubble on the edge of the screen or on another platform, that will hopefully blow up. This being a high scoring run, I'm watching out for letters which will give us eventually an extra life, and I'm hopefully blowing enough bubbles to get the super bonus, where all the extra bubbles on the screen turn into bonuses. So before you complete a level, it's important to blow as many bubbles as you can, and then hopefully if you do get the super bonus, that will give us a nice score of points. And each level can be done by the book, and as long as you know how to complete each level and get those enemies trapped early on, it means you can wander around the rest of it collecting up those letters, and hopefully if you burst them all together and not in sequence like that, that gives us a chance to go for that mega bonus. And you have to burst them all together, and it doesn't matter if you rush into those together or blow a bubble up and then burst that, and that will act as a chain reaction. So hopefully if you can collect all those bonuses before they disappear, and they will disappear fairly quickly, then you can get on with the main job. And you can see, well, we do get the super bonus from time to time on different levels, and that's not necessarily to do with how we've scored, but usually you can get the super bonus maybe half of the time if you blow enough bubbles on the screen and kind of count down and make sure that there's an even number. and that just makes sure you can count the presses on the fire button. And on this particular play I haven't used any save states whatsoever, but what I have used is the autofire function on the old zip stick. So I'm trying to chain bubbles together to get that last enemy. I couldn't manage it, but again we've managed to get that bonus, not the super bonus unfortunately, but we have got the bonus where every bubble turns into an extra collectible. Every one of these levels can be done in that routine, and as long as you stay in the safe spot, as long as you memorise the routine on every level to get rid of the enemies, then you can simply hang around. And unlike the arcade version, it doesn't give us that many extra items that we can use and power-ups, but if we look out for the sweets, then the candies, they will give us power-ups, and that will mean we can run around faster, and we can also blow bubbles faster as well, and we'll certainly be seeing that a bit later on. So that's another sweet collected. That only gives us 100 points, but they will give us a power-up. And you can see on this screen it's very difficult to get the mega bonus because we can't herd them together very easily. It is possible by pushing them together, but it's not easy on this particular screen, so it's always best to play it safe as much as possible. And you might also notice that you get extra score for blowing up bubbles, so if you can blow up some bubbles and then destroy them before the timer ticks down, you'll get another bonus. And also look out for mega items which appear as well, Shepherd's Crooks, which give us another mega bonus, and those appear very regularly on the original version of this game, but this being an updated version, the Shepherd's Crooks don't appear very regularly at all, and neither do the urns, which give us the ability to breathe fire. So what we're going to have to do is put it with the bubble power for now as we move on through those levels. This one I like to get them on the bottom and then go up to the top and then stay in the safe spot. And as long as you stay here and as long as you've got the reach bubbles which reach all across that screen, you can get another power up, then you can wait until they all get together. And sometimes it's pretty difficult to do that, but look at that. And the bonus as well, that gives us a nice extra score from those strawberries. Watch out for crystals as well, the gems will also give us a nice score. And this one, the safe spot is right in the middle on the top, because once they leave that spot at the start of the level, they will eventually return to it, and sometimes you can just wade in gung-ho just like this, and hopefully, well, we didn't get the super bonus in this case, but it's worth collecting all those items because the grapes give us a nice few thousand score as well. These levels I find is a lot easier with trial and error, and sometimes if you get into a routine of what you're meant to do, then you just get on with it. In this case we've managed to let one go, so that's ruined the super bonus, but we can chain bubbles up there to get rid of them, and then just a small matter of hopping over to the other side. And the levels do give us a time limit, and when that time limit runs out we'll get a ghost appearing, and just like the arcade we'll have to outrun that ghost that will slowly make its way towards us as time goes on. So you can't spend forever on these levels, and there's no indication of that time limit either. On this one I like to pop the first one straight away, which I spectacularly failed to do, and then if you stay on the spots where the bubbles will rise through the screen and make sure you point in the opposite way to which way you want them to go, then that should mean they fall down the level and pop the ghosts. So standing on the top there waiting for the spines to kill it, and if I'd have turned around the opposite way, sometimes I'm trying to push that bubble so it goes down the middle hole to get that enemy. It is possible to do that, but I'm on the wrong side of the screen, so let's try it from this side, which is obviously a lot easier. And if you can pop that using a special item that gives us a diamond, which is worth 7,000 points in this particular case, and because we've collected those candies, every bubble that we blow will give us an extra 10 score. So this one, again, there's lots of ways to do it, but if you hang around and if you pop them, then that means they should all float up towards the top of the screen, and as long as you wait for that to happen, you can just about manoeuvre it so that you can get the bonus. And look at that, we've got the bonus anyway, and that's tremendous to see that. That happens much more regularly on this version than any other version of the game, and it's wonderful to get that super bonus at the end. So this one I like to get them before they even started, and if you've got the long distance reach because of collecting those candies, it means you can reach them and then just bounce up to the top. And this level particularly loves to give us the mega bonus, even if we haven't got that already. So let's blow loads of bubbles out and land on top of those, and it gives us that, which gives us mega 1000 score. So definitely sometimes the mega bonus at the end of the level gives us more than the actual level itself. And this is another tricky stage. You can see level arcade mode things happening on the screen, and that's wonderful to see those arcade touches. So this one I like to get the middle one first and then hop on and upwards and get the second one, and then you can ignore them and get the third one, move over to the other side, and then hopefully, as long as you don't turn your back on the enemies, then you can jump up here and get the last two, and that gives us the mega bonus, 64,000. It doesn't give us the super bonus where all the bubbles turned, but we do get the mega, which is fantastic. If you can aim for that on every level, then you can rack up the score. So on this one, the enemies will jump out of their housing occasionally, and we're watching that green E, because if we get the extra life too early, that means that's a level skip wasted. And every level that we skip in this game, unfortunately this being a high scoring run, it means we've got a less chance of scoring the mega bucks. So that's why I'm ignoring any umbrellas that you might see dotted around, which are again very rare on this conversion. We won't be collecting any umbrellas, and I'll be trying to avoid the extra lives because you can only collect so many lives in this game. So the safe spot for this one is right in the middle at the top, and as long as you stay here and don't be tempted to collect the extra sweets, then it means you should be able to get them all. I was a bit too slow then, but you should be able to get them all, then pop them just like that, and that gives us that bonus. I missed one in this case, and if you deviate from the safe spot, obviously the enemies will wander back towards that safe spot eventually, so you don't have to move anywhere. And we still got the super bonus, but unfortunately there are few bubbles on screen. It only just gives us enough time to collect those. And so here we are on level 19, and we've lost at least one life already. So for this one, I find the easiest thing to do is to simply wait here at the start. So let's do that, and we can get the first one and then the next two, and well, we've missed one, so that was an error, but that ghost doesn't move too far away, and as long as we haven't died, unfortunately we have died, but if we had the long reach right now, we could reach over to those other ghosts and pop them, no problem. But if we get them, they will eventually wander down to the middle of the screen and hopefully start blowing bubbles now for the mega bonus. We still got the mega bonus, 32,000, but the last enemy unfortunately didn't die until, well, that must have wandered into something and it blew up by mistake. On level 20 there's supposed to be a bonus door here if you don't die ever, and that's definitely there on the original Software Creations version. But on this version it does not appear, and you have to use the bubbles to rise up that level, and that's pretty tricky, and that's the first tricky thing that novices will have to deal with. And if you blow lots of bubbles, it usually gives us the super bonus on this as soon as you've killed everybody, and yes it does, and the super bonus looks like some tomatoes. So some liberties have been taken from the arcade original, and it's a shame that we don't get those bonus doors, and I think we're only afforded maybe 4 lives at maximum on this conversion, which is again a waste of time. And we are actually looking at an alternative play here, if you're wondering where my bonus letters have disappeared to. So this is how you meant to do the level. This is from an alternative play. I did record this a number of times. So if you can get those all in a cluster in the middle, then that means you can get them, and we did get the mega bonus, 64,000. So going back to my actual play, this is my actual play, and look at that, we managed to find a flask. And on the real arcade version, if you fall down the screen and appear from the top again 15 times, you'll get a flask. And then if you do that 16 times, i.e. once again on the next level, you get another flask. And then if you do it 17 times in a row, you get another flask, etc. On this version, it seems to appear at random. So anytime that flask appears, or that jar of liquid, whatever it might be, collect that, and then you'll get 500 points for every token that there was littering that level, plus 100,000 score, which is really bumping us up there towards the million. So again, looking at an alternative play, this is how you're supposed to do the level. Again, turn your back towards or away from the enemies that you want to kill, just like the bubbles that we saw, which have water in them. You have to turn your back towards or away from the enemies, towards the edge of that screen, and that should pop them. And on very good plays, it is possible to fall down and get them. And you can see I'm trying to get them from the very edge of the screen because, well, none of the lightning bolts are in the right position. So the ghost will move about, so you do have an extra chance there, but you can pop those enemies from the corner. So let's see what happened on my actual play. It's given us a small device which gives us a few thousand points, and it's given us, well, the green E, which completes the extend, which gives us a free life, which is great. We could do with a life right now. It'll then give us the arcade sequence that we didn't get on the original version, and it flashes a few times after that, which mirrors the arcade machine. And then we move on to the next level, 23. So here you can, well, look at that, there's a crook, and it will be tempting to get the crook for the super bonus and the mega bonus, whatever that might be. That's a fruit that'll drop on our heads. That doesn't appear very quickly, and I've wasted my time to get that. So we do get 2,000 for popping some all at once, but it is possible to wait for them to collect in the very centre of that screen and pop them about here about this time, and leave those to float to the top and then collect them by doing that. I failed to do that on this particular run. This is a live play, and I didn't even manage to collect that fruit bonus either. And some levels are a lot easier than others. You can see on this one there are tons of enemies, but it's very easy to collect them. And the ice cream sundae is also important, I think, because that increases the chance of the mega bonus. I think we've still got 32,000 for popping all those together, and you do get 64 if you do get all of those, but we did miss one in case, and no super bonus. And this one is another fun level, but you can romp through it from the start with autofire. You can get virtually all of those or all of them from the start, but what you're meant to do is move these bubbles, pop them just like that, and that creates a frying pan, and that gives us a small super bonus, but it should also give us a crystal for every one that you destroy. So if you can get a frying pan going on that level, you can get a crystal for every enemy, and that gives us a mega score. I failed to do that again. So these enemies, these ghosts, will lob boulders towards us, and that's the super speed again, which is great. And they will jump up as well occasionally, so if we can jump up to avoid the boulders and then somehow push them into the middle, then that gives us the mega bonus. We didn't get that, we only got 16, and it's fantastic to see the fire droplets, the water droplets, and all these extra collectibles that we could get in the arcade version. But there is no bonus for falling from the bottom and ending up back at the top again. You'll just have to wait and see if you can get a flask, and if you can get a flask on this level, it makes the job a lot easier. And there are various safe spots, but I like to wade in anyway. Definitely if you can wait at the top, you can wait for them to simply walk down and fall down, move up towards us. And I think waiting on the top is beneficial because you can get them all together. I didn't do that, and that means that we're waiting now for all them to collect, and there's one just about to explode, so the enemies will break out of their bubbles eventually. So we're down to 2 lives. We could do with collecting that greenie at the moment, and those disappear as soon as you've collected the last enemy. The original Bubble Bobble was converted onto the Amiga in 1988 by Software Creations, published by Firebird, and this was, well, it was developed by David Broadhurst and Andrew Threlfall, who you might remember from Assassin and Ghouls and Ghosts. And the original is very faithful to the scoring system of the arcade version, and only half of the scoring system has been converted into this special version, so it's very rare to find special power-up rings and things like Aladdin's lamps and chalices and things like that. No, you won't find all those mega special bonuses and the bonus doors, so liberties have been taken with this particular version, which was created by Manfred Linzner in 2020, and he also created Rush Hour on the Amiga in 1996, and the public domain games Rise of the Rabbit in 1998, and he moved on to Tiny Gallagher in 2000 and Wrong Way Driver in 2021. On this screen you can jump up from the bottom and get those by standing on the corner, and that's kind of the lazy way to do it, but when you're running out of time, that's sometimes the only way that you can do it, so let's just do that. And at this stage, with 2 lives in the bank, I'm just simply holding on to those and progressing. So there's 2 ways you can get through the game, either the levels and lives method, where you preserve the lives as much as possible and get through the levels as easy as possible without risking anything, or you can go in there all guns blazing and risk it for the bonuses. So on this one, unfortunately, I'm standing with my back towards the enemies, and if I didn't do that, they would rise up the level, but on some levels they are quick to break out of their bubbles, and sometimes you can't wait for them to do that, so you have to be quick. And it's actually given us a flask on this particular playthrough, which you saw an alternative playthrough, but the flasks again appear at random. So let's collect all of these, and once you get the flask, that's definitely the level complete, apart from a number of levels which require us to bounce on bubbles to collect every single one of those bonuses. And this is one of my favourite levels if you've collected the power-ups, and that is the 3 types of candy, because from the start, if you can wait at the top and then fall into the middle, and if you have autofire on like this, then you can move into the bottom corner. Look at that, the mega bonus. Let's collect that. Hopefully you can get those enemies, turn your back towards them, and then collect the last few. That means you can pop them all together. You get the mega bonus, which I spectacularly missed. So let's collect that, and also some other bonuses as well. So hopefully we'll get some mega bonuses every now and again, because this is a high scoring run, but you might notice I'm wading gung-ho into the enemies and not waiting for those to rise up to the top of the level, because for one thing, I want to get through these levels as quickly as possible, and I think it does give us an extra life at score checkpoints. So what you're meant to do on this particular level is turn your back here and wait for that fire to drop down and get that last enemy as you pop the others, which is supposed to be on the ramp. You're supposed to fall down and collect those, and it's pretty difficult to get the mega bonus on that particular level. And on this level, I'm pretty sure that there is a safe spot right up the top of the screen again, and the very worst place to stand is on the bottom. And so, well, actually those will jump up occasionally and try to get us, but you can see we've got the rapid fire on thanks to that power up, and unfortunately we didn't get them all together. So I'm progressing levels and lives, so I will be chickening out and progressing through some of these levels the safe way. particularly this one, which is very difficult. So I like to march gung-ho into this as quickly as possible and make sure you burst those enemies at the bottom, because they will not rise up the level. And that's definitely something to watch out for, because it's very difficult to get the mega bonus because they won't rise up the level. So with these last few, you can simply stand on the ledge here and pop them in your own good time. And at this particular spot, I'm just going to blow a few extra bubbles just in case we get the super bonus, which we did. And again, collecting that really hikes up the score. You can collect maybe 5,000, even up to 10,000 sometimes with the super bonus. And it's not always easy to time that. But now that we've got the rapid fire, now we stand the chance of getting somewhere on these levels. So let's play this one by the book and collect those bonuses. Blow all the extra ones and then pop them. Fortunately, we didn't get the super bonus or the mega bonus, but we did get the collection bonus of 64,000 points. And these levels really do move forward and they get harder as it goes on. So I'm going to chicken out again. I'm not going to wait for them to collect on the top of the level. I'm simply going to blow them up straight away, and that's the easy way to do it. It doesn't give us a mega score, but it just means that we can take our time, and look at that, we can even move some ghosts together. And this is a wonderful conversion. It's got better graphics than the original, and it's got better playability than the original because our character is much more fluid and responsive. The controls are spot on, as you would expect, arcade perfect, and the screens are virtually arcade perfect, and so are the enemies as well, and even the ways to get through these areas are virtually arcade perfect. So on this screen you're supposed to wait for 2 fire bubbles to appear and then turn your back on them and jump on them, and it should pop both of the enemies at the same time. It's very difficult to do that, and I've actually lost a life in my efforts to get through this level. But it is possible to get that and get the gem bonus at the end. With this one it is possible to rise up the level and complete this very quickly, but it's also a lethal level as well. Sometimes you can get stuck on fire, and fire will make us freeze and unable to fire and jump, so don't get stuck on fire and let that burn behind us if at all possible. So again, I'm rushing in, I'm not waiting for those enemies to collect on the top of the level for one good reason, because in order to kill this one we're supposed to rain fire down on its heads by pushing a bubble, which I spectacularly failed to do, over to that side of the screen and then pop it and jump on it at the same time. And so that's not easy, but let's try that again. That process is made easier if we can find a blue bubble here and jump on that, and well, hopefully we can jump out of its way. And look at that, we managed to get the enemy anyway, which is certainly one way to do it. You can time the fall and pop the enemy that way, but I prefer not to do that. And then the difficulty curve really does get easy again as soon as you have that rapid fire. It really does get easy again with these particular levels, and so let's try to go for the super bonus again. Let's collect them all up, and at this particular stage you would expect the crook and to get the mega bonus, but that really does come rarely in this game. Also, the time limit doesn't allow us to collect all of those bonuses, unfortunately, so you'll have to select which bonuses you want to go for. On this one I like to stay in this corner and pop them all, and again with the auto fire that just makes it a joy, but yet again I've messed up the opportunity to get the mega bonus by blowing one of those up early, but we've just got an extra life, so we've gone over a score checkpoint and we've got the high score. We're heading up towards 2 million points. On this level it is possible, if you are very quick, to jump up and get all these enemies, and they will fire fireballs towards us, and it is possible, if you're very quick, simply to stay in that top corner like that and wait for them to jump out, get them all in a row, push them all together and get the mega bonus. I didn't do that, I chickened out by getting the first one early, and that just makes this level a lot easier to get through. Now on level 43, and sometimes the enemies can get stuck and you can't always rely on them to float back to the same place, and it gives us a ridiculously tight time limit as well on this level, so I like to get the job done early, even if that means looping the level a few times. And SOS, again, this is one of the easiest levels in the entire game, particularly if I had that rapid fire, because remember you can jump on the bubbles that contain the enemies, so there's no need to pop them, and sometimes you have to wait for them to rise up the level, sometimes they will. If the enemies are already jumped up, then you can get them at the top and get the super bonus, but I didn't. And SOS, sometimes levels can even spell out messages for us as well, and this being the bonus level, it's precisely that. We stand here, we can get them before they've even fallen down, and that means we can not only get the bonuses but also hopefully the mega bonus. Let's hopefully remember to blow a few, and then we get 10 bubbles on the screen, and that's fantastic to see it. So always remember to do that, and I'm forgetting to do that unfortunately during this playthrough. And so I love how the difficulty doesn't ramp up, and I love how the difficulty really loves to take it easy on the player if they manage to get to certain levels. And in this certain level, I think you're supposed to jump up and push them to one side. I really don't know, but you can see if we push them, they fall into the bottom corner. Ouch. And so I think that's what we're meant to do, but I'm not risking any delays at this point. Let's just get the job done. And then it moves on to a more difficult level, so let's skip again on towards an alternative play, and you can see some items appearing on the screen. I don't think they give us any mega bonuses, and so for this one you're supposed to wait for 2 bubbles to appear and then jump on the top one and burst it and then jump on the bottom one. They didn't manage to do that, but I did manage to kill all the enemies. So this being an alternative play, the enemies will jump up and jump out, and I'm not sure if it gives us a great time limit either. But you can see that's how you're supposed to do it. But let's go back to my play, and we've probably got a flask or something like that, which makes that job easier. And we've got the speed shoes as well, so, and we got the letter T, which completes the extend. And I hate the fact that on this version, if you already have 4 lives, it doesn't give us any more, it just gives us those 4 lives in the bank, which I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that the arcade version gave us more than that. So this game does not win the Arcade Perfect award. It has taken some liberties in this case. Levels look fiendishly difficult, and I always thought that this level was fiendishly difficult. Unfortunately I've just blown up a bubble which has set off a chain reaction, but normally you can make your way towards the top of that level or use the middle of it like a step ladder and go down the right hand side, and then when they're all in the middle just like that you can pop them, and unfortunately I have done that in the past. As you can see, the level is in the shape of a butterfly, so it's looks fiendishly hard, but actually that level is a fun level, and if the platforms are nice and straight like this, the levels are usually very fun. So let's get our shotgun out, bang 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 bang, and always remember to collect those sweets. And on the arcade version, don't forget collecting those actually gave us the opportunity to get magic ring, but on this version the super bonus is definitely enough for me. And I wish it gave us more shepherd's crooks, and I wish it gave us the ability to get flasks, things like that, but it doesn't. So some of the comments on Lemon Amiga were generally in favour of this. One person said it's way too easy, and I definitely agree that this is easier than both the arcade version and the original 1988 version. And another comment said that they preferred the original conversion over this one, and definitely the controls are pretty similar, the graphics and the enemies, only the original version took several compromises and this version takes some more compromises, and according to the comments on the Lemon Amiga website, the different compromises in this version make it different and not as good as the original conversion. So sometimes the original conversion you can get tons of great stuff appearing, and bells and whistles and all kinds of things, and you can get lightning bolts and mega weapons and chain reactions, but on this version it more or less relies on us knowing what we're supposed to do, and we can wait for that last enemy to rise on the level and push it towards the others and pop them all together. But again, I didn't manage to do that. I'll let one go, and sometimes you can get all of the enemies at the start of the level. So that was an alternative play to show you what I was supposed to do and what I actually did do on this play. It can appear at complete random, but we got a flask, and that means that the items aren't easy to collect, and sometimes you have to prioritise those, but luckily it does give us a timer in the middle of that screen, so that means we've got hopefully enough time to collect all of those items. And some screens it doesn't give us that much room and area clear to collect them, so it doesn't give us that many, but on screens which are virtually blank and it gives us the flask, that means we get tons of extra items, but some of those might be on the top of the screen. On this one I'm supposed to be going up the middle of the screen and getting the middle one first and then going this way, but I've found sometimes the enemies get angry and they speed up. Very lucky to get that enemy there, and the middle enemy will jump out eventually, and all of the enemies will collect over on this side. So if we wait for them to jump up, stand on the top step, sometimes it's possible, but it looks like I'm going to have to brave it and jump down. That's precisely what I don't want to do because they're going to get me, but I'm going to try it anyway. And again, luck favours the foolish. In this particular case, definitely luck over judgment there, but it is possible. I tried to time it and it worked. So sometimes you can know the route inside out and do it with your eyes closed. Sometimes you can march in, gung ho, and look at that. That's how you're supposed to do it, and pop one by mistake. So it is possible, and if you are quick, sometimes it's possible to get all the enemies together right from the start of the level. But if you do that, then you won't be collecting many bonus letters because they only float to the top every so often once the level has started. And this version yet again doesn't give us that many, not compared to the original conversion. Nice to see the ice cream cones eventually, and the safe spot is right at the start, right in the bottom centre of the level, and the enemies will run towards us on both sides. Around that spot and we have the rapid fire, hopefully we can get them, and the other safe spot is right in the middle at the top. We wait for the enemies to fall down and get them here, but again I didn't do that, but hopefully we can collect some more lives at another score checkpoint. So we're moving on to another level now, and yet again this is an alternative play of level 57, so the safe spot is right here. And sometimes the enemies will simply jump up the level or fall down it, enough for you to kill them at the top. And sometimes they will gang up on us and make that an impossible task. But usually, I'm not quite sure, maybe it's the platform on the left at the top, underneath the top platform, that's maybe the safe spot on this particular level, and you can shoot across. And I'm not quite sure, but there has to be a safe spot on every level. Maybe it's right in the middle where that green bean is. You can shoot them either side as they jump up. But yet again, luckily we've managed to find a flask, maybe the green one. So we're going to have to use the bubbles or use our platforming skills to collect all these goodies. And 4-leaf clover, luck favours the foolish, luck of the Irish. And yes, I do have Irish blood on one side of my family, and one side of that is Irish and the other side is Scottish, and then on the other side it appears to be English all the way back. So I do have a quarter of me which is Irish. So the Scottish side comes from the Kerr family, so if you've ever heard of any famous Kerrs, that's my line. So what's my line? That's my line. And so this is a very rapid fire run through of this level. You can stand on the top here and wait for them to fall down if you like, but sometimes they'll drift up into the top left corner if you do that. So I'm doing it the safe way, levels and lives. So let's get the first one, fall down, get these two, wait for the others to fall down, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and then wait for them to go into the middle, and you don't wait for that ghost to appear. And well, missed the massive bonus yet again. So I think it says BRIS or BR10 in the middle of the screen, and look at that, what a joy to play these levels. If you go down here and bomb 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 bomb, that means they don't rain down bubbles on our heads, and ordinarily the Space Invaders would go left and right and bounce bubbles on our heads, but at the very top of the screen is safe. And this is another wonderful level. You just fall down here onto the safe spot, and as they come down you can rapid fire them out of existence, bang, and then that's the level complete. So it really is a joy sometimes playing these levels, and I really do have a smile on my face when I'm playing it, particularly this version of the game, knowing that we can use those safe spots and those formulas to get through virtually every single level. On this level, I think again the top of the screen is what we need to aim for, top corner, but oh, mistimed that, missed those enemies. Let's see if we can get those, and yet again I'm playing it safe. If I wasn't playing it safe, I'd definitely wait and take my time doing these levels, but this is a high scoring long player run. I want to get through it. We've got 4 lives, and this level can be very difficult because the bubbles seem to have gravity. That's the same on the arcade version as well, and look at that, we've narrowly missed it. If we can get onto the top like that, we can run into them, boom, get the big score. But if we can't, and we have the slow fire, it's difficult, so definitely a key to this game is not dying, because it means you get to carry those power-ups from level to level, and it means we get to carry those through, and that makes them easier. So the more we don't die, the easier it is. On this level, you think you can just jump up and get them. You can, but I'm going to wait down here and wait for them to fall down, because that just makes it slightly easier. And we didn't get the mega bonus. I've definitely got the mega bonus on this level. No shepherd's crooks, and that's a shame because we don't have the ability to consider, oh, should we get the bonuses or should we go for the enemies? And there is nothing to go out of our way for. And this appears to be a safe spot. You can see the enemies through their missiles directly over our heads, and the enemies will jump up back into that spot, and we can avoid them, and we've managed to get them using that method. So again, the chicken way out means that we can preserve those lives, and once they start ticking down, it's very difficult. This is a very difficult level. This is level 66, and this level, look at that, we've killed us before we've even started it. So let's try that again. This is an alternative play. What we're meant to do is to pop everybody right at the start, and then trigger, jump up on them, and that's how you do it. And I think this is in the shape of a pirate ship, but what I'm actually going to do, let's see what I managed to do in this case. Stay on the top, and that's relatively safe, and then oh, look at that, the enemies have popped themselves, and that's great. If we leave the last one alone, it should mean that we have time now, and look at that, we should have stayed where we were and popped that while we were in there. But that's how you're supposed to complete that level. It can be very frustrating or very fun, depending on if you get those chain reactions together. So I do like these levels, because look at that, we can simply fall onto the safe spot from the start of it, and the boulders won't even get us unless we stupidly fall down like that. And then that's my own stupid ignorance and a rush to get through the level. And even still, it's still fun to get through it, but the smile isn't on my face because on this level you need the rapid fire, and we've just lost it. So I'm going to be collecting the fruit and the goodies from now on, and not avoiding those enemies is a danger. We'll have to watch out from now on, otherwise we're going to lose lives in rapid succession. Definitely if you can get the extend, then that's what we need at this point. That's good news, but the bad news is we're still going to have to collect those sweets. And this one I think is the rapid fire, which is fantastic. Definitely always go for the yellow candy that gives us the rapid fire, and I think the blue one gives us the extended reach. And so if you collect those, that's definitely what we need. And then we can stay here and pop bubbles on the heads, and we can pop them all just like that frying pan level that we saw before. But it does mean we'll have to pop those bubbles as they're drifting over the frying pan area, otherwise they're not going to have any effect. We can do that a number of ways. We can wait here and pop them, but there is no bubbles appearing until we move away and then it appears. Now we're too late. So it is possible, and they will speed up and they will traverse the bottom of that screen, so as long as we can get one down there, it'll pop everybody. Again, I'm making a complete mess of it, so I'm just going to do it the Rambo way by gung-hoing my way through it, all guns blazing. We're now heading up to 3 million, and these levels look quite familiar. Yes, you can get these just like that, fall down and then time this one and then make your way out of it again, but there are no special pickups, or at least I don't think so on this level. Maybe we'll get a fireball or something like that, but you can't rely on that, and that's why it's sometimes best to wade in. And we've collected that one, but now we're running out of time, and the angry enemies are no problem at all as long as we can time it correctly, and that's the difficult part. It's not the enemies, it's the timing. So let's try to get our timing correct, and yes, we can simply blow a series of bubbles here and then chain react them into the enemy. Blowing bubbles into an enemy actually makes them blow up. It is possible to do that in this game. You don't have to wade in and get those enemies, you can simply blow bubbles towards them and then light it like you're lighting a fuse, and that will go down and make them blow up. And so we move on to another very fun level normally if we can get out of the starting pit, which is very annoying because you can simply wait here and then fall down and get them bang 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 bang. And we luckily, very luckily, avoided the enemies then. But that's how we're supposed to do it, but we mistimed that, so we're very lucky in this case to get them. And we are lucky also to have our power-ups as well. And if you can get the enemies before they are angry, again it makes the levels easier. This one is quite fun, it works a bit like a puzzle box. We can fall down from the start and take on the first few, or we can let them simply fall down and come to us, which is what I'm doing. They will collect in the top corner and move around the screen, and so we can do that, but it's very difficult to get the others, and you can get the first middle one, but I'm popping those because they're now angry. It's very easy to have angry enemies wandering around the screen. And you can see an enemy has got stuck. What can we do about that? Well, there is water bubbles on this side of the screen, and using our pushing ability we can push those in, turn our backs, and that will get rid of that one. And then that leaves us with the middle two and the one on the right. Which one am I going for? Well, the one on the right, unfortunately we can't get that with the water bubbles, so we can jump up here and get that the easy way, but we can also get the middle two by going the middle way. So these bubbles here, we can now jump up and go the middle way, and let's try to get the top one first of all, and then lure the ghost around and get that one the bottom way, and now we can run and hopefully hang around for the last enemy. So that's a puzzle box. It's really great to do that level and outwit those silly ghosts, and it's really fun. And sometimes if you can stay calm and keep your cool on these levels, it make all the difference. And this one is a very easy level, again, as long as you maintain that calmness. And unfortunately we didn't manage to do that. We didn't avoid the boulder, so once the lives start to disappear they can tick down. Very fortunate with this tight time limit on these levels, and I'm not sure if any of these are arcade perfect as far as that tight time limit. So this one should give us a great load of bonuses if we had the flask. Otherwise we're going to have to rely on our wits to jump on those bubbles, and that will give us a safe spot. But unfortunately the boomerangs that the enemies fire make sure that we've died. Now look at this, we're on level 75, we've gone back down to slow walk, slow bubble, and without the extended reach. So again, we're looking for those extend letters to get our lives back up. And so let's find that safe spot. Let's run and gun our way into that safe spot, and look at that, a bonus. We really need that, we can't get it. And that really does mean that we're back down to square one with one life remaining. So let's finish the other enemies, go to that safe spot, finish the rest of that level. So sometimes we can be frustrated sometimes if we don't get to those safe areas, or we can't fire quickly enough, or sometimes if the enemies gang up on us, then we can be defeated. And so on this one, again, we can be rapid fire and we can wait for all the enemies to come to us, and eventually they will do so and collect their way in the middle of that screen. But for the final one I like to chase after it, because again of those time limits, sometimes you can be waiting around to pop the final few enemies. So there are no bonus letters to collect, and we can't collect this one either. This one is again a fun level ordinarily, and hopefully you can simply wait for the enemies to come to you, and maybe that's a safe spot, because the enemies will fall down and will try to get us. And so if you stand on either side at the top or either side in the bottom, then eventually they will come towards us, get them just like that. So again, a deceptively easy level as long as you stay out of the way of the enemies. There's no reason to die on that particular level. And we have the rapid fire and the extended reach, so let's make full use of that. And when the final enemy turns red, which they can do very quickly on this level, which makes it a nightmare, you definitely want to get rid of that as quickly as possible. We're through the 3 million point barrier as we move on to level 80. And again, look at the mayhem on this level. This is such a complicated, difficult level, and we can only complete it within a matter of 5 seconds. And we're only waiting those 5 seconds in case we get a letter, and we did, but we didn't bother to hang around to collect that. That was a green E, but that's also a level skip, so let's wait for the green E next time around. And again, I absolutely adore the levels that you can just wade in and pop everybody, get everybody before they get us. And sometimes those levels are really fun and really interesting, because we know we can just stand on a ledge and can get those enemies. And the only difficult part is when that time runs out. So let's try to move our way around the level. And this is level 81, don't forget. You'd expect the levels to be an absolute nightmare by now, but they aren't. It's fun, it's meant to be fun, it's meant to be an arcade game, and it's meant to be, if you've memorised it by playing this game long enough, you can find those safe spots. And this one, I think the enemies jump out of their housing, so all you need to do is to use the step ladder in the middle of it, and that job is made more difficult because of the enemy firing towards us, but I think that's all you're meant to do, and the enemies will eventually step out of their housings, and then you can simply trigger the fire on the top of the screen to rain fire down on their heads. That means that we're going to have to wait for that time limit to run out, which isn't normally too bad, but you can see I've made a complete mess of any one of those scenarios, and it's possible to blow a bubble and push it in there, but I can't get that to work because of the extended reach. So on this particular level, it's a case of trying to get above the enemies and then they'll jump out, because if you can't, they won't jump out, and trying to get them like that isn't definitely going to work. So yeah, we can do it like that, but if you collide with the scenery then that won't work. And this is a very difficult level because it can have players banging their heads on the screens trying to work it out. And the easiest way is to go completely to the left or completely to the right and bounce up the screen. That means you don't have to run the gauntlet of the step ladder, but at least now that we've done that, the enemies have risen and we can breathe a sigh of relief, and now we can simply hang around on the top of that level and wait for the enemies to die. I like to do this one by the book, and doing it by the book isn't very easy because the enemies will fire, but if they are on a different level to us they won't be able to hit us, and that's a good thing to remember. And getting the mega bonus again is mega difficult on this particular level, so let's collect that greenie. And the first sets of enemies aren't too difficult, but the Space Invader is, for one good reason. He won't jump out of anywhere and he won't leave anywhere. We'll have to get him the hard way. There's only one way to get him, and that's to bubble in there, and bubbling in there means we're going to have to run that gauntlet, which is made all the harder when that guy is bouncing around at high speed, and you have to jump on that and turn around at the same time, or hopefully face that enemy somehow, which is very difficult. So now that he's running at a correct speed, or at least a reasonable speed, we can jump into him. And it's a sigh of relief now that we've got 0 lives remaining in the bank. We're going to be playing all the way up to level 94, but we're not going to complete the game on this particular playthrough. So again, I'm making my way through to those safe spots, because if we are above the enemies, that logistically means that they cannot fire on our heads. And again, if we stand on those safe spots, the enemies will eventually come to us, as long as we know where they are. So doing it by the book means it's boring, but it also means that it gets the job done. Sometimes progress equals very heightened satisfaction in this game, and if you die early, i.e. if you die by now, then unfortunately it can lead to frustration. But by the time you get to this stage, obviously the player's fingers will be sweating, and unfortunately we don't have the rapid fire, which means we can't bang these enemies out. And what I'm actually doing is using lateral thinking to jump between those enemies. Yes, that did happen in real time, and using lateral thinking means that we got through that level. That's the first and the last and the only time I'll probably do that particular thing on that particular level, because I'm very unlikely to play this game again. But if I did, then that's one way to do it, if you're running short on bonuses. And this, again, if you've got the shotgun action, you can blow them up, but I'm really struggling to do that, and mistiming shots means that these ghosts will get angry, and that means we'll now rain down on our heads, and that just makes the level, if not impossible, but much harder. So jumping up there into that safe spot, that's definitely one safe spot to remember on the level, and the enemies can't get us there because you can see the top ghost can't fit through that gap. That's one thing to remember. And finally we can get through that, and it gives us some trophies as well. And dead heat, it's fantastic to see those bonuses, and look at that, we get stuck in the scenery. And unfortunately, one massive drawback, the elephant in the room, is we cannot use bubbles, our own bubbles, to go out through the top hatch and appear on the bottom of the level again. That appears on the arcade version, that appears on the original conversion, but that doesn't appear on this conversion, and that's definitely the very worst aspect of this game. You would daily want to use your own bubbles to jump out of the top of the level, or even using the platforms themselves to jump out of the top and appear on the bottom. You can't wrap around the screen that way, you can't do it from bottom to top, but you can do it falling down the screen obviously and appearing at the top. So that's definitely the majorest drawback of this particular level. And this one, if we simply stand in the centre left column on the top of that and wait for the bubbles to go up, and the bubbles got stuck at the moment so we're going to have to push it, but if we can stand on those columns, come on, let's push that button. Oh, look at that, the bubble was right there after all. And that's definitely the one way to do it. I love those levels where you pop everything like popcorn, and we get some Wario fries as well, and I'm not sure, but maybe that was borrowed off a Nintendo game. And on this particular level, unfortunately, it's very easy to get stuck and it's very easy to die and get an unwinnable situation if you aren't careful and make sure that none of those enemies are floating around the level, because if they are, then that means that unfortunately if you jump up to this higher level, because you can't wrap around the screen, that means you are stuck and the enemies cannot be killed. So that means I'm doing it the slow way, and doing it the slow way, well, we've managed to jump up there. Doing it the slow way is pretty difficult, but watch this. We've managed to get him. I'm waiting here for it to pop, and it didn't pop. The enemy got out, and now, because of that wraparound problem, we can no longer jump out of the level and wrap around it. So that's why this game deserves a 9 out of 10. That's the score on the Lemon Amiga website, 9 out of 10, or 8.9, whatever it is at the moment. And that's because of the wraparound problem. But if we get this end, that will complete our extend. Yes, that did happen in real time. We did manage to get that extend. I've cut that out, but I was very lucky there not to get trapped, and that was almost level over. So let's see how far we can get, and these levels are pretty familiar by now. If you know how to get through these levels from previous ones, then it's pretty easy, and the symbol in the middle of it will kindly call that a rocket ship. So we're waiting for another fire bubble to come down, and again we can time these, and if we're a master of timing we can fall down and we can get them. And waiting for fire bubbles can sometimes be difficult, particularly with the enemy. So let's see what we do in this particular case. We're trying to get that T, that gives us an extra letter. And again, the fire bubbles are going into the wrong side, but they must be there because we've got a blue bubble. Do we waste a life? Do we collide with the enemy? Do we risk it? No, we don't. We use the fire bubble technique, and as long as we avoid the death creature, phew, that's another sigh of relief. That means that by luck, again, not by judgment, we get through the level. And that's what's so great about this. It's a super game. And if you're a super gamer, you can get right through these levels and you can have mega fun doing it, even if these levels look mega familiar to levels that you've already completed loads of times and the safe spot is in the bottom corner. You just have to wait for the enemies to come to you. But it doesn't matter, it's the fun of getting through these that makes this a classic. That's what made the arcade game a classic, and that's why it is a classic in my book. And unfortunately there are only a smattering of collectibles in this case, and it seems to be too easy. Look at that, another really easy level, but unfortunately it doesn't have everything from the arcade, and that just means that it doesn't quite get a 10 out of 10 perfect score, which, given the fact that Final Fight and Slap Fight and all these other stupid games that we got on the Amiga conversion wise were only worth a 3 out of 10, at least this 9 out of 10 makes it a lot worth it. Look at that, we even get some bonuses in the shape of our creatures, so I'm very glad to see all the bonuses from the arcade version are in this version. So I do have massive respect for this game, and I love the difficulty curve that goes up and down and gives you a really easy and then a really hard and then a really easy one, because it means you can get your lives back, get your confidence back, get your power-ups back, and it means that we can progress nice and smoothly level for level. And apart from the wraparound bug and a few bonus doors and the shepherd's crooks as well, which give us no opportunity to divert and go off the beaten track, as long as we go through the formula and get above those enemies and force them to jump out, by now you should be able to get through these levels no problem. And it means that this game is fun, it doesn't penalise us, and it means that we can collect some computers, no matter what they are, some 8-bit computers with 8-bit built-in green screen graphics. And then guess what? The hockey stick takes a dive, because on this level you really have to know how to complete it. In order to complete it, this is my live playthrough of it. I've never seen it before in my life. If we can get the clock, that means that we can freeze those enemies, and that's particularly what we need. We've not seen that for a long time, we won't see it again, and if we got that clock, then that would mean we can land on the step on the top of the level, get all those enemies, and that's level complete. We're almost there, we're almost out of it, and it's very difficult. Maybe I'm supposed to be blowing bubbles from the other side of this platform and trying to jump out of it that way. It's not easy because you've got the step ahead of us, and that makes it harder to jump out. I'm trying to get them the hard way, and doing that the hard way isn't good because now we've run out of time. So thank you for watching this furthest ever play of Tiny Bobble, the Bubble Bobble almost arcade conversion game, public domain freeware for free on the Amiga. And this is definitely worth at least $7.99 if you're buying this in a box version. I'm not sure that exists, but this is my review of the game. I have nothing but respect for the game, and that's as far as I ever got playing it on my furthest ever run in the Lemon Amiga Games competition. So thank you for viewing this play guide and review, and we'll be back again for another play guide at some point, sometime soon. Thank you.